Hey guys, I'm here with Corey Gossett. Last year, 2021, Corey dropped a song every single week. Every single week of the year, he dropped a new song and didn't miss a single one. They were all fire, but I'm kind of biased. So I'm basically here to ask him about that process and let you guys into a little bit of what our world was like making that happen. So I think the first and foremost question is, what inspired you to want to drop a song every week? What was the motivation for, hey, I want to drop a song every single week this year?
I think the main motivation behind it was just the desire to grow,
To grow in which way?
like audience-wise.
Mm-hmm.
I knew, based on, people who have done it in the past, that consistently releasing a digestible amount of music, which we just did a song, it's like people are more likely to give that song a listen rather than, just dropping like lengthy project after lengthy project and taking a bunch of time in between where, you build up this hype, then it kind of fizzles out, and then you drop again, and then you build up that hype and it fizzles out. We just wanted to be consistent with it and do our best to just get as many, new ears as we can on it, and everybody that's, been with us on the journey, just keeping them content, keeping them happy, giving them new stuff constantly.
Besides building an audience or growing your audience, were there other things that you wanted to accomplish in doing this?
I knew it would be a challenge for both of us, really, because the workload was ridiculous. Let's just keep that straight. But I'd say really, other than that, it's like obviously I'm always trying to get better at songwriting. This year I practiced production a ton, so those things, and I want to say I ended up producing like 25 or so of the songs. I can't remember the exact number, but it was somewhere in there, huh?
Did you have that as a goal in mind of trying to make, a hefty portion of the songs yourself, or was that just something that came about as you grew?
I think it was just something that kind of came about, honestly, because like I knew that I wanted to practice production throughout the year, and I knew it was going to be a good opportunity too, because even just there's a lot of people that make a lot of beats every year, but still I don't want to have to take away from Vesta's catalog and Swo's catalog and your catalog constantly, because I know that other artists are trying to look in. So I definitely did want to try to branch out, learn what I could. I didn't really have a set number goal of songs that I wanted to produce. Like I wasn't like I want to aim for 30 or whatever. I just kind of was, worked at my own pace and did it, and we ended up somewhere around 25 songs, which I was super proud of, honestly. So yeah, I'd say to answer your question, like learning production, continuing to develop my songwriting skills, and then build the fan base.
Were you did you go into this afraid of anything? Not only the fear of, can I do this, or the fear of just the task at large, but was there anything specific about the process or life or your music that you were afraid of happening or not happening throughout the process?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think I was necessarily afraid of anything. I think, looking back, like, my biggest fear was running out of things to talk about. I wanted to be able to keep it genuine. Like, I didn't want there to hit a point in the year where it's like, oh, he's just like saying the same thing, or, You know what I'm saying? I wanted to, and even if it's about a similar topic, I wanted to be able to approach it from a different angle. And that's kind of like the technique that I used to kind of evade that, was really just there's something that actually Gary Vee said, how, like, he's obviously gained a little bit of notoriety in the past few years or whatever. People look up to him. But he had something recently where he was like, I've always been saying the same thing. I just found different ways to say it until certain ways started connecting with certain people, and then I started knowing what worked and what didn't work. So for me, it was like taking the stuff that I love to write about, the parts of my life that I love to write about, and really getting creative and trying to find, you know, these separate angles to kind of display it to the audience to see kind of what clicks better, what people like more. And obviously that's not like the only reason. Like,
did you ever get to a point where you felt like you were running out of things to say?
Honestly, not during the year. Honestly, like now after the year, I'm like, man, what am I going to talk
So now,
about?
by the end of the process, now you're like, man, did I say everything I could say?
Yeah. And it's kind of something I've honestly been struggling with, like recently, is like, you know, what is next?
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's a huge thing to follow up, and like you said, like, just kind of figuring out where I'm at in life, taking a step back and really processing. Because, I mean, we did grow a lot, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I really need to take some time and reassess where I am in the space right now. And, you know, kind of figure out how I want to maneuver forward.
Like halfway through the year, how were you feeling? Like around the time, I don't know, maybe June or July came around. At that point, do you remember how you were feeling about the process, about, you know, all the work that was involved and the reception that you were seeing? Like halfway through the year, do you felt like you were seeing the growth you wanted? How did you feel about the music? How did you feel about the process? Like I want to get a snapshot of where your mind was at when you reached the halfway mark of dropping a song a week.
I think I went into things with extremely high expectations on like the outcome of like growth or whatever. So, and that's not to say that I was like disappointed or anything. I was always just taking it, you know, step by step, because when you're working on something like so big in scale, like you have to break it off into pieces to be able to like really digest it. So I'd say at like the halfway point, I was happy with the growth on Spotify that we had seen. As far as the process goes, I think that was probably around the time I was starting to get a little, maybe like mentally worn out a bit. And it wasn't even so much like the music as it was keeping up with like promoting all of the releases and making sure everybody knew what was going on. Trying to stay on top of just like weekly content surrounding the songs. Like it was just crazy. That's when I realized how crazy it was going to be, like not even just from the songwriting perspective.
What did you do to promote the song? Like what were your tactics, or what were you doing to try to promote them every week?
I always tried to do like a short little snippet, usually post it on like all of my socials, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, all of that. Just kind of announcing the song and giving people a little taste of it. I think looking back, I would have tried to like reformat those, and because you see a lot of people, especially on TikTok, will post like extremely similar videos around the same song. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that I feel like I wish I would have done, which may have resulted in more growth on TikTok. But yeah, I think aside from the videos, the snippet videos, we did a few like lyric videos that Robbie designed, mm-hmm. that had cool effects and like 3D assets.
You started doing that early on too.
Yeah, that was like our first go at it. Or right when we kicked off the year, we kind of had those in mind. But those got pretty difficult to upkeep because managing like all the 3D assets and everything that's like a whole thing. especially if you want it to be like synced to the sound and
Yeah.
like it gets weird. But
So at the end of the year, how did you feel when the final song was finished? And then how did you feel when the final song was released?
okay,
And I guess final song was finished. I can't remember, and no one would know besides you which song was actually finished last. So how did you feel when the final song was finished? And then how did you feel when the final song was released, which would have been December 31st, the last day of the year?
yeah, I for me, like, what moment in my head is kind of like solidified as the end, as far as the studio process went, was that last session we had, because I know we ended up using the recording that I did for church, which was the last song. So kind of like seeing that come together, and it was the last session, obviously, and we got it mixed and we got it mastered, and I mean, it was a moment. Like, it's hard to explain. I think at that moment, I think I felt more proud and grateful. But I will say, like, when the song was released, it's like those feelings had kind of not entirely dissipated. Like, obviously, I'm proud of what we did, like, permanently.
Yeah.
But when you first feel something, it's like it's heavier,
Yeah.
So like that, the weight of those feelings kind of started to trickle off, and by the time the song was released, like the day of the release, it's always a good vibe because, I'll throw it in and listen to it once or twice just to, try to feel what everybody else is feeling listening to it, but it's really... that's when like it started getting more like feelings of like empty and like sad, because it's like it's done,
Yeah,
and like everything we worked for was over, and it's like it was constant so much, and then to have that like release of like, now you don't have to do stuff every single day like that. I mean, you do, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's not like a particular goal that you have in mind. Like we did with the whole year and completing it was like, then, I mean, the question, like, what's next? And all of that starts to come in,
It's good. I was just thinking about how it's quite the arc of, at the beginning of the year, you moving here, you didn't even have the MacBook yet.
Yeah.
And, like, we were just starting the process to the very last song. Did you produce Church? I felt like you produced it. Yeah. The very last song, you produced it and you recorded it, and that's what we used for the actual, like, that whole arc of coming out here brand new to the final song after 52. You produced, you recorded, and we put it together, and it like kind of rounded out the year.
100%. I was really proud that I got to produce as many as I did, and that we got the couple in that I recorded as well. Because that's just, I mean, we talked about it a year and a half ago. I know I mentioned to you, like, hey, I want to get to the point where I can, just start sending you stuff, and,
Yeah.
So it was cool to kind of inch closer to that and actually get to do it a couple times before the end of the year.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking back at 52 songs from 2021, I didn't want to give a number, so, like, what were some of your favorites and why?
I think the first one that honestly comes to my mind is Like You with Duvo. And first off, that song is a vibe to me. Like, I love that song so much, and the story of just how quickly and everything, like how that song ended up coming together, it really just seemed like one of those things that was like, it was supposed to happen, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I hit up Duvo because of Jabari's recommendation, actually. Because Jabari, we actually recorded All In.
Yep.
We wrote All In and produced All In the night that he told me about Duvo.
Yes.
And he hit him up on Snapchat and was like, hey, I got a buddy, you would love him. Check him out, he wants to work with you. And then he ended up messaging me on Instagram. I had the beat from 24K, so I was like, hey man, check this out. If you want to do something to it, do something. That night he ended up like writing something to it and then posting like a live snippet of it on his Instagram. And he sent it to me and was like, yo, check this out. Like, if you like it, like, we can try and get it done. And it was an awesome, like, beautiful verse, I thought. And so the next day, JV had a session, and he ended up having to cancel. And you were like, hey, are you trying to slide in and take JV's session? I'm like, you already know. So I went there, and then Dugo messaged me while we were at the session and was like, hey, I'm going to be in Dayton in like 10 minutes. Like, are you free? Like, what's up? I'm like, yeah, come through. Or no, it wasn't in 10 minutes, but he was going to be in Dayton that day. And then his car broke down. He managed to find one of his buddies to drive him all the way out there despite... And he came out, and by the time he walked in, it was like we had just finished my verse and the hook, so he could just hop right in there, get it done, and it came out amazing. So that I just love how everything worked out with that song. Night Day is for sure. It's just another one of those really slow, vibey ones that I love. Also produced by 24K. Ohio's Most Definitely Not for Lovers. Produced by you. Like... insane. Like, the production on that is nutty. And I mean, as far as like pop punk instrumentals go, it's like one of the best ones I've heard personally, I think. And then Lucid, produced by Swerve. It's like he went so crazy on that production, and to really, for me to be able to like let loose, try something entirely new, lots of like screaming. And like it was just a different space for me to be in. We had a lot of fun making that one, so it's like that one's definitely one of my favorites.
So, tough question. Kind of the opposite of that. Looking back, are there any songs that you released that you feel maybe weren't ready, or that looking back you don't really love that song and you should have done something different?
I am going to look very quickly just so I can give a quick skim and see if anything like hits my...
While you're looking, I will just mention some of my favorites being Politics.
I love that
Politics.
song too,
Broken really grew on me after I saw you perform it. Of course, Lucid. Flashback. Lighthouse. Title always feels really good. Those are all up there. And then Night Day and Like You for sure as well.
Yeah, and I just remembered another one of my favorites. Changes.
Changes.
That was the first song I wrote and produced when I got out here. And that piano melody, like, God gave me that piano melody. Let me just get that straight. Like, it was one of those things where I kind of, like, was fiddling around with something. And then once I had the MIDI, I was like, I'm going to tweak this, tweak that. And it just came out beautifully. Like, that is easily the best piano part I've ever written. So I was super proud of that. But the only song that I feel like I'm kind of, like, meh about is This Party Sucks. That's always been the one for me that I was just like I get it. It was fun, and it was, it is a fun song.
It is a fun song.
But it's like that was one that we had been sitting on, and we couldn't really find a place for it, and it's like we threw it in there, and I don't think it's bad. Like, I don't like hate the song.
No.
But it's one that I think could have been perceived as kind of a throwaway. Because lyrically it's not anything fantastic, and it's just kind of explaining a vibe and kind of like a situation, not so much like there wasn't a lot of weight to it,
I see what you're saying.
And that's what I try to always achieve with my music, is at least giving it some sort of substance or emotional weight,
So with that said, how many songs, because like that one was done a long time ago, Changes was done at the beginning, Church was like right there, kind of close to the end. Throughout the process, at this point, how many songs did you hold back from releasing, and why, if you want to answer that? And then what do you plan to do with the stuff that didn't get put out or didn't get used? If anything. The answer could be no plan, but...
Yeah, I think... What was the first part of the question again?
How many songs did you hold back, and why? And then what do you plan to do with them?
The one... there was a few that we held back. One was made on that Sorrowbringer beat.
Blinding?
Blinding, yeah. Shout out Sorrowbringer. We had to find new production for it, but his original production, which was sold exclusively to someone else, was the inspiration for that song. And that, I think, is going to find its place on a project in the future. I know one song that we ended up releasing this year, but we kind of held back on, was Same Me. Mm-hmm. That was one that I was just super unsure of because it kind of showed an interesting side of just this whole thing. I think it ended up being received very well. I was just kind of worried because, you know, it's a super personal song as much as there is some lines that are kind of like almost snarky and confident, I guess. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm always interested on how people will take that from me, because if you know me in person, like, I try to be chill. Like, I'm not like in your face with confidence 24/7, you know? So that always has me kind of worried, and also it brings up a super personal side of all of this, is how much I've changed, and like, am I the same person as I was when we started this year? That was just, when I think of holding back, like, that's what popped into my head, even though I know we ended up releasing that song. And then what was the second part of that question?
What do you plan to do with them? The ones that were held back that didn't get put out? Yeah,
just that Sorrowbringer one, I think, is probably going to end up going on a project in the future. And then we have the one that I can't really say because artists don't like to text back, but, you know, it is what it is.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Somebody Stop Me.
Oh, Somebody Stop. I forgot about that one. That one might have to sit on ice for a minute.
Oh my god, I want that song out.
We're going to have to need, like you said, it needs a crazy visual. If we ever do, it has to come out with a visual.
Yeah, because I want people to hear that song really badly. I guess with that said, what are your plans moving forward in 2022? What do you plan to do with this year, seeing as how you accomplished such a massive feat in 2021? What does 2022 look like in your eyes? Hopefully, what you have in your mind.
Basically, this year, I just want to focus on continuing to promote the music that we made last year. I want to start really focusing on TikTok now that I've seen, because I was like one of those people that was sleeping super hard on TikTok. But then once I started seeing like how people are, you know, duetting with one another, and how it's like a lot more collaborative than I initially thought, that's definitely piqued my interest. So I want to kind of go back and maybe let people put verses on some of the songs we did this year, and like, you know, make them duettable or whatever. So yeah, just continue to promote that stuff. We're working on, I have a couple ideas for some projects moving forward. I mean, we're going to keep creating music. I want to do some videos. We've got some merch coming. So like, also Boy Meets World will be out. I don't know when exactly this will come out, but
soon.
Yeah, it'll be out. Boy Meets World will also be out soonish. And I'm super proud of that. I mean, that's just going to be like the year, you know. It's going to be the project that represents the year. I'm super happy with how it came out. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Cool. I'll let you take us out. Tell them where they can find you and what they should go listen to.
My name is Corey Gossett with Smart Boy Studios in 463. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, any social at Kid Who Came Back. You can find me on any streaming platform. Corey Gossett. Did I miss anything? New merch coming soon. Boy Meets World coming soon. New album after that. Yeah. I love you guys.
Gang gang.